What's up, dudes? Simon back with another video. Today I am going to give you guys some album recommendations within the realm of metal. I will probably do other recommendations, within subgenres and stuff like that. But for this one, I'm just going to stick to albums based around just sort of metal-esque. Ones that I would recommend you guys to listen to, ones that I enjoy. They are from all different time periods, so we're not sticking to any decade or whatever. These are just albums that I think are kind of underrated, and I think that more people should listen to if they haven't already. But yeah, I'm just going to share a couple of those with you, go into some details, and hopefully you guys check some of them out. So let's get into it. Right, let's start off with a band that I'm actually wearing a t-shirt of. Was it done purposely? Possibly. I just went into the black band t-shirt collection and just picked it, and it just happened to be a Mastodon one, and I also wanted to talk about Mastodon, so there we go. I want to talk about 2014's Once More Around the Sun. I feel like it's a Mastodon album that, from what I can see, gets left out of a lot of, best of lists, and people seem to put it quite low in their rankings, and all of these, Metal Hammer and that, they do all their like best to worst albums, and obviously it's all open to interpretation. But I always find that this one doesn't get slated, but kind of gets forgotten about. Obviously The Hunter came before this, which I don't like half as much as this album, and then Emperor of Sand that came out after this album, which I don't like half as much as this album. So I feel like this one is stuck in the middle of those two, even though I feel like it's superior to those two, which is kind of because Emperor of Sand has a lot of good songs on it. The Hunter I wasn't so keen on. I probably need to give that one more time. I really missed out on it on the time. I'm not quite sure why, even though I am a huge Mastodon fan. But yeah, Once More Around the Sun has everything I would expect from a Mastodon album. A great opener, your typical... Every time I listen to these guys, I just think they're just going to do something interesting. Their vocal lines, their shared vocals. When you've got three people singing in a band, it can just make so many good parts. Musically, they're always going to do something fantastic. Great drummer. They're always going to do interesting guitar riffs, time changes, and this is what you expect from a really, really good prog metal band. But yeah, it starts off with Tread Lightly, where obviously it builds up for ages and ages. Every time I listen to it, it feels like it takes like 3/4 of the song for the chorus to come in, but I quite like that because it makes you really want to hear those nice vocals that finally do kick in. Obviously this album has a massive single on it in The Motherlode, which I think is in their top listened. I think it's got like 33 million plays just on Spotify alone, which doesn't even include YouTube. It's got a really good video as well. But obviously that's one of their smash hits, which is probably why it seems like this album's so far up on their Spotify, but I still feel like this is one that people don't talk about. I hear people talking about The Hunter and all the other ones, but not this one. It's really, really annoying. I think that Ember City is an absolute great track. What have we got here as well? Let me just look quickly, remind myself. Chimes at Midnight. It has real low somber points, and then really nice sort of high, real energy, loads of great vocals. I really feel like this is always one that the Mastodon fans don't talk about or don't appreciate. And it's definitely up there for me, alongside like Blood Mountain and all the ones that I consider to be Mastodon classics. So yeah, if you like prog metal, I'm sure if you like Mastodon, you've probably heard this album. But if you haven't listened to it in a while, I would say go back to it. I think it's really worth your time as a Mastodon fan, and worth your time as a fan of metal in general, and especially if you like prog metal. I think that this one is a must listen to. Okay, this is an album that I have wanted to talk about for ages. I consider this album to be a metal classic, and I really don't think enough people know about it. It's Scar Symmetry's 2008 literal metal masterpiece, Holographic Universe. If you are a fan of metal in any way, shape or form, you need to listen to this album. It is ridiculous. On some parts of this album, they sound like Meshuggah. On some parts, they sound like Fear Factory. On some parts, they are absolutely shredding the guitars with crazy solos. The vocalist, Christian Alstom, on this album is absolutely unbelievable. I remember playing this to people and people being like, that's two singers. He goes from just absolutely disgusting screaming vocals to almost too nice, angelic, beautiful 90s band boy voice, a boy band voice, sorry. It is just amazing to listen to as a vocalist. As a musician in general, this album is absolutely unbelievable. And obviously woven into all of those things are the sort of space and universe concept, with songs like Quantum Leaper, Artificial Sun Projector. Like, there are some real great tracks in this album. The lyrics are fantastic. I remember I bought this on CD at the time, and I just read through all the lyrics. Just like, oh my god, this is like mind-bending. For someone who is an astronomy nut as well, this was just like another level. If you like space or anything to do with space, you'll love this album purely for the lyrics, like the lyrical content. But overall, I think, wow, what an album. So underrated. I can't believe that this album isn't just a massive and big time, remembered to be as one of the metal greats. Unfortunately, he actually left the band, Christian Alsson, the singer, and they could only replace him with 2 singers, so one doing screaming and one doing singing. I think they've done some good albums since, but I think that the loss when he left the band after this album, they literally couldn't get another person to replace him. They had to get 2. And I always felt like that was a bit of a step down, because the vocals on this album are just out of this world. So if you like metal, if you like Fear Factory and Meshuggah, you'll absolutely love it. If you love anything metalcore, although the music is very metal, there's no real metalcore to the actual music. If you like bands like Killswitch, and bands that switch it up between clean and screaming vocals, you will like this album purely for the lyrical content. But I think that you'll really enjoy the actual metal rather than having, the standard metalcore riffs. It's just metal with singing and screaming over it, which I think is really, really different. And it just sounds like metal that no one's making at the moment. So I think this is a really good time capsule of 2008. And I'm surprised no one has just gone back to this album and just ripped it off. Because if I was in a band, I would say, guys, let's go back to Holographic Universe and just rip off this entire album. We'll just make an album almost exactly the same, make it now, and then get massive off of it, because that's what this album should be. But yes, I could gush about this album for ages, but please go and listen to it. I highly recommend. You will enjoy. Okay, another recommendation, another prog-esque metal band, but with loads of other stuff thrown in. It's Sikth's 2017 album, The Future in Whose Eyes. Another tour de force if you are a musician, especially being a bass player. I mean, I just adore this album, all of their albums. I think, again, like Scar Symmetry, Sikth are massively underrated and should be absolutely huge. They should be one of the kings of prog metal and metal in general. And people always forget they're a British band. They are one of our homelands. We should be hanging on to them and putting them on a pedestal, shoving them down everyone's throat, like I'm doing to you. But yeah, Future in Whose Eyes is a great album. I think it would be a great place to start if you hadn't listened to Sikth before. Starts with the song Vivid, just straight away goes in, bit of slap bass, straight into a disgusting riff, no messing around. I think one of the best things about this band is having 2 singers that have 2 completely different styles of voices, that both sing, both scream, both do weird voices. They have very strange, almost movie-like monologues throughout the album, and they are really, really good. It makes the band feel different, but they started doing those sorts of weird voices and stuff in songs as well. I think that they do question and answer vocals. They sing over each other. They sing together. I think, again, from a vocal perspective, it's a really interesting album to listen to. I mean, this has got ballads on it, like metal slow-paced ballads. It's got fast prog stuff. Like I said, it's got weird talking tracks. This album just has everything that I would like, and I think that you guys would like from a metal album with that little bit of prog element to it as well, because this band can literally go anywhere. They can go right down, right up to all of the weird and wonderful places that Sikth always go. But I do think that for fans that haven't listened to them before, this would be a fantastic place to start. And again, I could gush about this band forever, so I won't take up too much of your time, but please go and listen to it. With all of these albums, actually, I'd love you guys to listen to them. Actually, tell me what you think in the comments. If you hated it, if you liked it, if we managed to make you fans of any of those bands, that would be great as well. But yes, Sikth, Future in Whose Eyes, it's excellent. Another recommendation for you guys, we are going gothy metal this time, is Bleeding Through's 2018 album, Love Will Kill All. I have been a Bleeding Through fan literally since day. Since This Is Love, This Is Murderous, went to see this band all the time. I feel like I'm in the middle of their sort of career up to now. I would say that I not lost interest, but they didn't do everything for me that I wanted at the time. I feel like they were continuing and not growing. Then they brought this album out in 2018, and I thought, wow, this might be the best Bleeding Through album. It's really fantastically put together. It's gothy. It's got all the, you know, gothic keys and sound that you'd expect from the album. It has a lot of sort of black metal in it as well. Some of it sounds like old Cradle of Filth stuff with all of those sort of entangled, you know, running riffs that you would expect from the old Cradle of Filth. Drumming on this album is absolutely unbelievable. If you're a drummer, the fills on this album are just unreal. It's absolutely banged out. The drums are front and center in this album. They are really, really high in the mix. It makes you want to move and drum. I'm always like this when I'm listening to this album. Yeah, guitars wise, fantastic work again. And vocally, God, Brannon's vocals are just so good. He goes from that disgusting, you know, old school hardcore death metal kind of vocals, and then, you know, you'll think for 3 songs that, you know, that's all he can do, and all of a sudden he'll just come in with a clean vocal and you're like, oh my god, wow, where the hell did that come from? Like, this guy can literally do everything. I just think as a band, again, this is sort of a theme running through this video, massively underappreciated band in my eyes. I think Bleeding Through should be much bigger and much more appreciated within the metal community than they are at the moment. Hopefully one day they will get there, but I think that this album, especially if you like anything gothic, anything dark and heavy, I think that you will really enjoy this album and some of their other albums as well. They used to be more on the hardcore, you know, metalcore side of stuff. Now they have added, they do sound a lot more sort of gothy and epic than they did, you know, even 2 or 3 albums ago. So I like this version of them better, which is kind of weird. They've always had those elements, but they're more stretched out and they're more front and center on this album. So yes, I would definitely recommend Bleeding Through's Love Will Kill All. Go and check it out, and all us goths can be happy together. And my final recommendation is Raunchy's 2008 album Wasteland Discotheque. Now, Raunchy is a terrible band name, so ignore that straight away. They're a really good band. I've said on multiple occasions that this album has a lot of the elements and sounds and feel as Bring Me the Horizon's Sempiternal, only 5 years before. I really feel like Ollie listened to this album and thought, yeah, let's just do that. I know that's obviously not what happened because Bring Me the Horizon evolved, but when I listen to this album, I get those feelings. It has a lot of the same depth, a lot of the same... Shut up, phone! I'm going to put your phone on silent. This is what you should do when you're recording a YouTube video. Yeah, it has a lot of those same vibes, the same energy. I think the vocals on this are quite similar to Ollie's vocals on Suicide Season in parts. Obviously, these guys completely make that sort of stuff their own. But yeah, even from mainland Europe, you know, they influence stuff that happens even in, you know, the UK and America. And I feel like this might have been a catalyst for that sort of Sempiternal, that feel that they went with during the album. I think that's Bring Me's best album. I think this album hits a lot of the same beats. Obviously, it is different. It doesn't have necessarily as many electronic elements and stuff like that. But I do think this is worth your time, both vocally, musically. I mean, it does that typical European, you know, they've got harmony guitars. It goes into sort of metalcore elements, then goes into metal elements. I just think that generally, again, this is a hugely underrated album. Raunchy are an underrated band. And I think that if you like Bring Me the Horizon Sempiternal, I genuinely think you like this album. I think you'll listen to it and you'll go, I can kind of hear what he means when he says that. You know, it's not the same, but I don't know what it is. Something in me triggers the memories of that album, even though this was 5 years before. So yeah, I would recommend it to fans, obviously, of metalcore especially, and Bring Me the Horizon fans, just as a cheeky nod to Sempiternal. I'd really like to know if you guys think there's a lot of similarities in it, so let me know in the comments. But yes, Raunchy's 2008 Wasteland Discotheque, Go check it out. It's awesome. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you go and check out some of those albums and let me know in the comments what you think about them. Give me some albums. Are there any underrated metal albums that you guys absolutely love that I should be listening to? Because I will listen to them. I'm always interested in getting new music from people. So you check mine out and I'll check yours out. How about that? We'll do each other a deal. Thanks again to everyone for subscribing. I mean, we're nearly up to 700 now. This is literally blowing my mind. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I'm doing this stuff every week now, discussing. I've got some download videos to do. We're coming up to festival season. Things are going to start to get really busy, really fun. I look forward to making all of these videos. Also, if you like podcasts, I do a podcast called the Dear Download Podcast with my friend Adam Cox, where we talk about everything I talk about on here in much more detail. There's some of the episodes are like 2 hours long. So if you want to hear two guys talking about music for 2 hours, that's the podcast for you. Links in the description. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great Easter weekend, and I'll see you dudes in the next video.